ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಓ ಮೈ ಗಾಡ್, ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು. ಓಕೆ. ಓಂ ಗುರು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಗುರು ವಿಷ್ಣು ಗುರು ದೇವೋ ಮಹೇಶ್ವರಃ ಗುರು ಸಾಕ್ಷಾತ್ ಪರಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ತಸ್ಮೈ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರವೇ ನಮಃ. ಓಂ ಕೇಶವಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಓಂ ನಾರಾಯಣಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಓಂ ಮಾಧವಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಓಂ ಗೋವಿಂದಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಓಂ ವಿಷ್ಣುವೇ ನಮಃ, ಮತ್ಸೂದನಾಯ ನಮಃ, ತ್ರಿವಿಕ್ರಮಾಯ ನಮಃ, ವಾಮನಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಶ್ರೀಧರಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಋಷಿಕೇಶಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಪದ್ಮನಾಭಾಯ ನಮಃ, ದಾಮೋದರಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಸಂಕರ್ಷಣಾಯ ನಮಃ, ವಾಸುದೇವಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಪ್ರದ್ಯುಮ್ನಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಅನಿರುದ್ಧಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಪುರುಷೋತ್ತಮಾಯ ನಮಃ, ದೋಕ್ಷಾಯ ನಮಃ, ನಾರಸಿಂಹಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಅಚ್ಯುತಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಜನಾರ್ದನಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಉಪೇಂದ್ರಾಯ ನಮಃ, ಹರಯೇ ನಮಃ, ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಓಂ ಗಣಾನಾಂ ತ್ವಾ ಗಣಪತಿಗಂ ಹವಾಮಹೇ ಕವಿಂ ಕವೀನಾಮುಪವಸ್ತ್ರವಸ್ತ್ರಭಂ ಜ್ಯೇಷ್ಠರಾಜಂ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣಾನ್ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣಸ್ಪತ ಆನುಶೃಣ್ವೋತಿಭಿಃ ಸೇದಸಾದನಂ. We are coming to 17th chapter of Dashamaskanda, and this chapter gives early life of Kaliya, how Kali sarpa came to Yamuna river, where was he before. These are things will be informed here. I'll just give a summary. Kaliya left the island of the snakes and how the sleeping residents of Vrindavana were saved from a forest fire. These are the two things happened in this chapter. When King Parikshit inquired about Kaliya's leaving Ramanaka island, the abode of serpents, and about why Garuda acted inimically toward him, Sri Shuka Maharshi replied as follows: all the serpents on the islands were afraid of being killed by Garuda. To placate him, every month they would leave various offerings for him at the foot of banyan tree. But Kali, puffed up as he was with false pride, would eat these offerings himself. Hearing of this, Garuda became furious and went to kill Kaliya, whereupon the snake began biting the great bird. Garuda fiercely beat him with his wing, sending Kaliya fleeing for his life to a lake adjoining the Yamuna river. Prior to the above incident, Garuda had once come to the Yamuna and started eating some fish. Saubari Rishi had tried to stop him, but Garuda, agitated by hunger, had refused to heed the sage's prohibitions. And in response, the Saubari Rishi had cursed Garuda that if he ever came there again, he would immediately die. Kalia had heard of this, and thus he lived there without any fear, because Garuda cannot come here. In the end, however, he was driven out of the Yamuna river by Lord Sri Krishna this time. When Lord Balarama and all the residents of Vrindavana saw Krishna rise up out of the lake, beautifully decorated with many different gems and ornaments, they embraced him in a great pleasure. The spiritual masters, priests, or learned Brahmanas then told Nanda Maharaja, the king of the cowherds, that although his son had been caught in the grips of Kaliya, it was by the king's good fortune that he was now free again. Because the people of Vrindavana were quite worn out by hunger, thirst, and fatigue. They spent that night on the banks of the Yamuna river. In the middle of the night, a fire happened to blaze up within the forest, which had become dry during the hot season. As the fire surrounded the sleeping inhabitants of Vrindavana, they suddenly awoke and rushed to Sri Krishna for protection. Then the unlimitedly powerful Lord Sri Krishna, seeing his dear relatives and friends so distressed, immediately swallowed up all the terrible forest fire. So these are the things in this chapter. The chapter of Dashamaskanda gives Krishna Leela details very nicely. Raja Uvacha, Parikshit Raja is asking in the first sloka, Nagalayam Ramanakam Kasmatra Tyaja Kaliyaha Krutam Kiva Suparnasya Tene Kena Samanjasam. This is the first sloka of the 17th chapter of Dashamaskanda of Mahabhagavad Purana. Having thus heard now how Lord Krishna chastised Kaliya, King Parikshit inquired, why did Kaliya leave Ramanaka island in the beginning, the abode of the serpents, and why did Garuda become so antagonistic toward him alone? So Shuka is answering. Shuka Maharshi said, to avoid being eaten by Garuda, the serpents had previously made an arrangement with him whereby they would each make a monthly offering of tribute at the base of a tree, banyan tree. Thus, every month on a schedule, O mighty armed King Parikshit, each serpent would duly make his offering to that powerful carrier of Vishnu as a purchase of protection. Sridhara Swami has given an alternative explanation of this verse. Upaharya may also be translated as by those who are to be eaten, and sarpa janaya as those human beings who are dominated by or who belong to the serpent race. According to this reading, a group of human beings had fallen under the control of the serpents and were prone to be eaten by them. To avoid this, the human beings would make monthly offering to the serpents, who in turn would offer a portion of that offering to Garuda, so that he would not eat them. The particular translation given above is based on the commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami and the translation by Srirala Prabhupada in his Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In any case, all the Acharyas agree that the serpents purchased protection from Garuda. Although all the other serpents were dutifully making offerings to Garuda, one serpent, the arrogant Kaliya, son of Kadru, would eat all those offerings before Garuda could come to climb them. Thus, Kaliya directly defied the carrier of Lord Vishnu. O King, the greatly powerful Garuda, who is very dear to the Supreme Lord, became angry when he heard of this. Desiring to kill Kaliya, he rushed toward the serpent with a tremendous speed. As Garuda swiftly fell upon Kaliya, who had the weapon of poison, raised his numerous heads to counteract. Showing his ferocious tongues and expanding his horrible eyes, Kaliya then beat Garuda with the weapons of his fangs. Kaliya hit Garuda. Kaliya bit the Garuda, but the weapons of his fangs, Garuda used his fangs and hit him. The Acharyas explained that Kaliya used his weapon by poison at a distance by spitting venom upon his enemy, and at short range by biting him with his terrible fangs. The angry son of Taksha moved with overwhelming speed in repelling Kaliya's attack. That terribly powerful carrier of the Lord, Madhusudana, struck the son of Kadru with his left wing, which shone like a gold. Beaten by Garuda's wing, Kaliya was extremely distraught, and thus he took shelter of a lake adjoining the river Yamuna. Garuda could not enter this lake. Indeed, he could not even approach it. In that very lake, Garuda had once desired to eat a fish, fish being, after all, his normal food, although forbidden by the sage Shaubari, who was meditating there within the water. Garuda took courage and, feeling hungry, seized the fish. Shukadevi Goswami is now explaining why Garuda could not approach the lake in the Yamuna river. It is the nature of birds to eat fish, and thus, by the arrangement of the Lord, the great bird Garuda does not commit any offense by nourishing himself with fish. On the other hand, Shaubari Munis, forbidding a much greater personality to eat his normal food, did constitute an offense. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, Shaubari committed two offenses. First, he dared to give an order to a supremely exalted soul like Garuda, and second, he obstructed Garuda from satisfying his desire of eating fish. Seeing how the unfortunate fish in that lake had become most unhappy at the death of their leader, Shaubari uttered the following curse under the impression that he was mercifully acting for the benefit of the lake's resident, the fish. If Garuda ever again enters this lake and eats the fish here, he will immediately lose his life. What I am saying is the truth. This is what Shaubari Maharshi gave a curse for Garuda not to eat fish in that lake. Of all the serpents, while only Kaliya came to know of this affair, and in the fear of Garuda, he took up residence in that Yamuna lake. Later, Lord Krishna drove him out of the lake also. Resuming his description of Krishna's chastisement of Kaliya, Sukha Maharshi continued. Krishna rose up out of the lake wearing divine garlands, fragrances, and garments given by the Nagadevatas and Kaliya's wives, covered with many fine jewels and decorated with gold. When the cowherds saw him, they all stood up immediately, just like an unconscious person's senses coming back to life. Filled with a great joy, they affectionately embraced him. The cowherd boys of Vrindavana are very happy to see Krishna back from the Yamuna river. Having regained their vital functions, Yashoda Rani, and Rohini Rani, Nanda, and all the other cowherd women and men went up to Krishna. O descendant of Kuru, even the dried up trees came back to life after seeing Lord Krishna. Lord Balarama embraced his infallible brother and laughed. Knowing well the extent of Krishna's potency, out of great feelings of love, Balarama lifted Krishna up on his lap and repeatedly looked at him. The cows, bulls, and young female calves also achieved the highest pleasure of seeing Krishna back. All the respectable Brahmanas, together with their wives, came forward to greet Nanda Maharaja. They said to him, "Your son was in the grips of Kaliya, but by the grace of Providence, he is now free." The Brahmanas then advised Nanda Maharaja to assure that your son Krishna will always be free from danger. You should give charity to the Brahmanas. With a satisfied mind, O King Nanda Maharaj then very gladly gave them gifts of cows and gold. The greatly fortunate Mother Yashoda, having lost her son and then regained him, placed him on her lap. That chaste lady cried constant torrents of tears as she repeatedly embraced him. The Yashoda was very much worried whether Krishna is going to come back from the Yamuna river or not. She was worried. O best of King Parikshit, because of the residents of Vrindavana were feeling very weak from hunger, thirst and fatigue, they and the cows spent the night where they were, lying down near the bank of the Kalindi. Srila Jiva Goswami points out that although the people were weak from hunger and thirst, they did not drink the milk from the cows present there because they feared it had been contaminated by the serpent's poison. The residents of Vrindavana were so overjoyed to get back their beloved Krishna that they did not want to go back to their homes without him. They wanted to stay with Krishna on the bank of the Yamuna so that they would continuously see him. Thus, they decided to take rest near the river bank. During the night, while all the people of Vrindavana were asleep, a great fire blazed up within the dry summer forest. The fire surrounded the inhabitants of Vraja on all sides and began to scorch them. Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura have commented that perhaps a loyal friend of Kaliya had assumed in the form of a forest fire to avenge his friend. Or perhaps the forest fire was a manifest by a demon who was the follower of Kamsa. Those people think that way. Then the residents of Vrindavana woke up extremely disturbed by the great fire threatening to burn them. Thus, they took shelter of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, who by his spiritual potency appeared like an ordinary human being. Lord Krishna, Vrindavana's residents said, Krishna, Krishna, O Lord of all opulence, O Rama, possessor of unlimited power, Balarama, the most terrible fire is about to devour us. The fire is going to kill us. Please protect your devotees. They are telling Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga, He Rama, Mitavikrama, Vishagoratamo, Vaknimastadakan Grasate Hinaha. And Sadustaranam Swannahi Kalegnaha Sauradaha Prabho Na Shaknumascha Charanam Santyukta Mukato Bhayam. That is the 24th sloka. O Lord, we are your true friends and devotees. Please protect us from this insurmountable fire of the death. We can never give up your lotus feet, which drive away all fear. The residents of Vrindavana told Krishna, if this deadly fire overcomes us, we will be separated from your lotus feet, and this is unbearable for us. Therefore, just so that we can go on serving your lotus feet, please protect us. The last sloka, Ittam Sudana Veklakyam Niriksha Jagadishwaraha Tamagnima Pibatti Manontonanta Shaktidruku. Seeing his devotees so disturbed, Sri Krishna, the infinite Lord of the universe and possessor of infinite power, then swallowed the terrible forest fire. Thus ends the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to the 10th canto, 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The History of Kaliya and the Forest Fire. Now the next chapter, 18th, in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna is going to attack Pralambasura, another asura, and he is going to give moksha for Pralambasura. The killing of Pralambasura is described in this 18th chapter. While playing happily in Vrindavana, Lord Balarama climbed up on the shoulders of the demon Pralamba and struck his head with his fist, destroying him. That is Pralambasura. So Balarama went up on the shoulders of Pralambasura and struck his head with his fist, destroying him. Sri Vrindavana, where Krishna and Balarama enacted their pastimes, was even during the summer decorated with all the qualities of spring. At that time, Lord Sri Krishna would become absorbed in various sports, surrounded by Balarama and all the Cowherd boys. One day, they were intently dancing, singing, and playing when the demon named Pralamba entered their midst, disguised as a Cowherd boy. The omniscient Lord Krishna saw through the disguise, but even as he thought of how to kill the demon, he treated him as a friend. Krishna then suggested to his young friends and Balarama that they play a game involving contending parties. Taking the role of leaders, Krishna and Balarama divided the boys into two groups and determined that the losers would have to carry the winners on their shoulders. Thus, when Sridhama and Vrishabha, members of Balarama's party, were victorious, Krishna and another boy in his party carried them on their shoulders. Pralambasura thought that the unconquerable Lord Sri Krishna would be too great an opponent to contend with. So the demon fought with Balarama instead of, and he was defeated. Taking Lord Balarama on his back, Pralambasura began to walk away very swiftly. But Balarama became as heavy as Mount Sumeru, and the demon, unable to carry him, had to reveal his true demonic form. When Balarama saw this terrible form, he struck the demon a ferocious blow on the head with his fist. This blow shattered the Pralambasura's head, just as lightning bolts hurled by the kings of the gods shatter mountains. The demon repeatedly vomited blood and then fell upon the ground. When the cowherd boys saw Lord Balarama return, they joyfully embraced and congratulated Balarama as the gods showered garlands of flowers from the heavens and glorified him. This is the summary part of the 18th chapter. Now the shloka starts, Pralambasura Moksha. Shuka Uvacha Atha Krishna Parivrato Jnate Bimodit Trube Anugiyamano Naimatudvaja Gokulamanditam. Now the story starts. Surrounded by his blissful companions who constantly changed his glories, Sri Krishna then entered the village of Vraja, which was decorated with herds of cows. While Krishna and Balarama were thus enjoying life in Vrindavana, in the guise of ordinary cowherd boys, the summer season gradually appeared. This season is not very pleasing to embodied souls. In the chapter 18 of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments as follows. The summer season in India is not very much welcomed because of the excessive heat. But in Vrindavana, everyone was pleased because summer here appeared just like spring. Nevertheless, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was personally staying in Vrindavana along with Balarama, summer manifested the qualities of the spring. Such are the features of the land of Vrindavana. To protect the Lord in Vrindavana, the loud sound of waterfalls covered the crickets' noise, and clusters of trees constantly moistened by spray from those waterfalls beautified the entire area. This and the following three verses described how Vrindavana manifested the features of spring even during the summer season. The wind wafting over the waves of the lakes and flowing rivers carried away the pollen of many varieties of lotuses and water lilies and then cooled the entire Vrindavana area. Thus the residents there did not suffer from the heat generated by the blazing summer sun, seasonal forest fires. Indeed, Vrindavana was abundant with fresh green grass. With their flowing waves, the deep rivers drenched their banks, making them damp and muddy. Thus the rays of the sun, which were as fierce as poison, could not evaporate the earth's sap or parch its green grass. Flowers beautifully decorated the forest of Vrindavana, and many varieties of animals and birds filled it with sound. The peacocks and bees sang, and the cuckoos and cranes cooed. Intending to engage in pastimes, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, accompanied by Lord Balarama and surrounded by the cowherd boys and the cows, entered the forest of Vrindavana. He played his flute. Lord Krishna was playing his flute in the forest, decorating themselves with newly grown leaves along with the peacock feathers, garlands, clusters of flowers, birds, and colored minerals. Balarama, Krishna, and their cowherd friends danced, wrestled, and sang. As Krishna danced, some of the boys accompanied him by singing and others by playing flutes. hand cymbals and buffalo horns, while still others praised his dancing. Wanting to encourage Lord Krishna, some of the cowherd boys openly praised his dancing. O King of gods, disguised themselves as members of the cowherd community, just as dramatic dancers praise another dancer, worshipped Krishna and Balaram, who were also appearing as cowherd boys. Krishna and Balarama played with their cowherd boyfriends by whirling about, leaping, hurling, slapping, and fighting. Sometimes Krishna and Balarama would pull the hair on the boys' heads. While the other boys were dancing, O King, Krishna and Balarama would sometimes accompany them with song and instrumental music, and sometimes the two lords would praise the boys, saying, "Very good, very good." Krishna and Balarama was appreciating the other boys also. Sometimes the cowherd boys would play with the bilva and kumbha fruits, and sometimes with handfuls of amalaka fruits. At other times, they would play the games of trying to touch one another or trying to identify somebody while one is blindfolded, hidden, and sometimes they would imitate animals and birds. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that the word adhyayai by other such sport indicates such games as chasing one another and building bridges. Another pastime would occur at noon while Lord Krishna was taking rest nearby. The young cowherd girls would be passing by singing, and Krishna's boyfriends would pretend to inquire from them about the price of the milk. Then the boys would steal yogurt and other items from them and run away. Krishna, Balarama, and their friends would also play games in which they would cross the river in boats. They would sometimes jump around like a frogs and sometimes play various other jokes, sometimes ride in swings, and sometimes imitate monarchs. Sorry about disturbance. In this way, Krishna and Balarama played all sorts of well-known games as they wandered among the rivers, hills, valleys, bushes, trees, and lakes of Vrindavana. While Balarama and Krishna and their cowherd friends were thus tending the cows in that Vrindavana forest, the demon Pralambasura entered their midst. He had assumed the form of a cowherd boy with the intention of kidnapping Krishna and Balarama. Having described how Krishna and Balarama acted just like ordinary boys, Shuka Maharshi will now reveal one of the Lord's transcendental pastimes. Shloka 18 starts like this: Dehi danam dujatinam Krishna dimukti hetave nandaha pritimana rajanga suvarnam tada dishat. The meaning of this shloka: since the Supreme Lord Krishna, who had appeared in the Dashara dynasty, sees everything, he understood who the demon was. Since Supreme Lord Krishna, who had appeared in the Dashara dynasty, sees everything, he understood who the demon was. Still, the Lord pretended to accept the demon as a friend, while at the same time seriously considering how to kill him. Krishna, who knows all sports and games, then called together the cowherd boys and spoke as follows: Hey boys, let us play now. We will divide ourselves into two even teams. One is Balarama team, one is Krishna team. The cowherd boys choose Krishna and Balarama as the leaders of the two parties. Some of the boys were in Krishna's side and others joined Balarama's side. The boys played various games involved carriers and passengers. In these games, the winners would climb up on the banks of the on the backs of the losers. The winners will climb the back of the losers who would have to carry him. Thus, carrying and being carried by one another, and at the same time tending the cows and boys followed Krishna to a banyan tree known as Bhandarika. They saw that the best of all the trees, which had many long branches with its dense covering leaves, it is resembled a cloud sitting on the earth. Indeed, its form was so large that it appeared like a mountain covering half of the sky. Many birds with charming blue wings frequented that great tree, whose dense fruits and leaves made it seem like a cloud accompanied by a rainbow or like a house. Decorated with creepers and flowers, it spread its broad roots downward and carried upon itself the sanctified clouds. That banyan tree was like the lordly master of all the other trees in that vicinity, as it performed all auspicious functions of warding off the rain and the heat of the sun. Such was the appearance that the Negroda trees known as Bhandari, which seemed just like the peak of Great Mountain. My dear King Parikshit, when Sridhama, Vrishabha, and other members of the Cowherd families, Lord Balarama's party, were victorious in these games, Krishna and his followers had to carry them. Defeated, the Supreme Lord Krishna carried Sridhama, Bhadrasena carried Vrishabha, and Pralamba carried Balarama, the son of Rohini. One may ask how Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, can be defeated by his boyfriends. The answer is that in his original form, God has a most playful nature, and occasionally enjoys submitting to the strength of the desire of his loving friends. A father may sometimes playfully fall down on the ground when struck by his beloved son, little child, Lord Krishna's shoulders, to please his beloved friend, who happened to be Bhagavan, Supreme Personality Godhead. Considering Lord Krishna invincible, that foremost demon Pralambasura quickly carried Balarama far beyond the spot where he was supposed to put his passenger down. Pralambasura wanted to carry Balarama out of Lord Krishna's sight so that he could cruelly attack him. As the great demon carried Balarama, the Lord became as heavy as massive Mount Samur, and Pralambasura had to slow down. He then resumed his actual form, an effulgent body that is covered with golden ornaments and resembled a cloud flashing with lightning and carrying the moon. Here the demon Pralambasura is compared to a cloud, his golden ornaments to lightning within that cloud, and Lord Balarama to the moon shining through it. Great demons can assume various forms by exerting their mystic power, but when the Lord's spiritual potency curtails their power, they can no longer maintain an artificial form and must again manifest their actual demonic body. Lord Balarama suddenly became as heavy as great mountain, and although the demon tried to carry him high on his shoulders, he could not go on. When Lord Balarama, who carries the plow weapon, saw the gigantic body of the demon as he moved swiftly in the sky with his blazing eyes, fiery hair, terrible teeth reaching toward his scrolling brows, and an amazing effulgency generated by his armlets, crown, and earrings, the Lord seemed to become a little frightened. Lord Balarama, so-called fear as follows. Balarama was acting out of the role of an ordinary Cowherd boy, and to maintain the mood of his pastime, he appeared slightly disturbed by the horrible demonic body. Also, because the demon had appeared as a Cowherd boyfriend of Krishna, and because Krishna had accepted him as a friend, Balarama was slightly apprehensive about killing him. Balarama could also have been worried that since this covered boy was actually a demon in his disguise, at that very moment, another such demon might have been attacking Lord Krishna himself. Thus, the omniscient and omnipotent Supreme Lord Balarama exhibited the pastime of becoming slightly nervous in the presence of horrible demon Pralambasura. Remembering the actual situation, the fearless Balarama understood that the demon was trying to kidnap him and take him away from his companions. The Lord then became furious and struck the demon's head with his hard fist, just as Indra, the king of the demigods, describes, just as Indra, the king of gods, strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt weapon. Lord Balarama's powerful fist came crushing down upon the demon's head, just as a huge lightning bolt comes crashing into a mountain, cracking its stone surface into pieces. The words Vihaya Sartam Aiva may also be divided Vihayasya Artam Aiva, meaning the demon was flying in the sky on the cosmic path Vihayasya with the purpose of carrying Balarama, who has his Artam or object of pursuit. Thus, smashed by Balarama's fist, Pralambasura had immediately cracked open. The demon vomited blood from his mouth and lost consciousness, and then with a great noise, he fell lifeless on the ground. He fell lifeless on the ground. The demon vomited blood, lost all consciousness, and then with a great noise he fell lifeless on the ground, like a mountain devastated by Indra. The cowherd boys were most astonished to see how the powerful Balarama had killed the demon Pralamba, and they exclaimed, "Excellent, excellent." They offered Balarama profuse benedictions and then glorified him, who deserves all glorification. Their minds overwhelmed with ecstatic love, they embraced him as if he had come back from the dead. The sinful Pralambasura having been killed, the gods felt extremely happy and they showered flower garlands upon Lord Balarama and praised the excellence he did. Thus end the purpose of humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to the 10th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Balarama slays the demon Pralambasura. Namostu Anantaya Sahasramurtaye Sahasrapadakshirubhav Sahasranamne Purushashne Sahasrakoti Yugadharane Namaha Sahasrakoti Yugadharane Namaha Akashat Padidam Yadagat Sagaram Sarvadev Namaskaraha Srikesham Pragatyo Namaha Sarva Vedeshat Punyam Sarva Tirteshu Yatpalam Tatpalam Prapti Vasanat Vasevasya Vastante Jayatram Sarva Bhutane Vaste Vasde Namaste Kayena Vacha Manasendreva Buddhatmanava Pakrute Samava Karomi Adyat Sagaram Parasmai Narayanaayeti Samarpayami Narayanaayeti Samarpayami Hari Om Tatsas Hari Om Tatsas. Tomorrow we are reading 19th chapter where all the cows are protected by the forest fire.